A mother's courage. The remarkable journey of a German shepherd. The desperate encounter. The early morning fog clung to Portland's empty streets like a phantom's embrace. Emma Mitchell clutched her coffee thermos tighter as she navigated the quiet downtown sidewalks, savoring these precious moments of solitude before the city awakened. A clinical psychologist with a busy practice, these dawn walks were her sanctuary, a brief reprieve from the emotional weight of her patient's struggles. That particular Tuesday in October, something felt different. The air carried an unusual stillness, as if the world was holding its breath. As Emma rounded the corner near Pioneer Square, she spotted a shadow moving along the edge of an abandoned storefront. The figure moved with painful deliberation, a large dog, its frame so emaciated that each labored breath visibly expanded its ribcage beneath a dull, patchy coat. Emma froze. The German shepherd limped forward, its amber eyes reflecting a depth of suffering that transcended species. Blood matted the fur around its right hind leg. Years of working with trauma patients had taught Emma to recognize desperation when she saw it. And this creature embodied pure desperation. The dog moved closer, head lowered submissively, tail tucked against its skeletal frame. Emma crouched down instinctively, making herself smaller, less threatening. The German shepherd approached with caution, stopping just feet away. That's when Emma noticed what the dog carried in her mouth, a tiny puppy, barely larger than Emma's hand, trembling violently in the morning chill. With ceremonial gentleness, the mother dog placed her puppy at Emma's feet. The tiny creature whimpered, its eyes still sealed shut, pink skin visible through sparse fur. The mother dog backed away slightly, eyes fixed on Emma with an intensity that penetrated straight to her soul. In that silent exchange, something profound passed between woman and animal, a plea more eloquent than any words could convey. The mother's message was unmistakable. I cannot save my child. But perhaps you can. Emma's heart constricted. In her 15 years of practice, she had witnessed countless manifestations of human suffering, but nothing had prepared her for the raw vulnerability of this moment. A mother's ultimate sacrifice, entrusting her offspring to a complete stranger when all other options had vanished. It's okay, Emma whispered, her voice catching. I understand. The German shepherd's ears twitched at Emma's voice, recognition flickering in her exhausted eyes. With trembling hands, Emma carefully wrapped her scarf around the tiny puppy. The mother dog watched, her vigilance never wavering, even as she swayed slightly from weakness. Without hesitation, Emma pulled out her phone. The coffee thermos lay forgotten on the sidewalk as she dialed the emergency number for Pacific Northwest Animal Rescue, her voice urgent as she described the situation. The mother dog hadn't fled. Instead, she'd collapsed onto her side, her protective gaze still fixed on her puppy, now cradled in Emma's gentle hands. A chance at survival. The fluorescent lights of Pacific Northwest Animal Rescue cast harsh shadows across Dr. Nathan Rivera's concerned face as he examined the German shepherd. The mother dog lay on the examination table, her breathing shallow but steady. The puppy, barely a week old, had been placed in a warming incubator, its tiny form nearly lost among the soft blankets. She's severely malnourished, dehydrated, and has multiple untreated injuries, Dr. Rivera explained, his fingers gently probing a particularly nasty wound on the dog's hind leg. This fracture is old, it never healed properly, and she's been nursing, which has depleted her already limited resources. Emma nodded, unable to tear her eyes away from the mother dog's face. Despite her obvious pain, the German shepherd remained calm under the veterinarian's touch, her eyes constantly darting toward the incubator that held her puppy. Will they survive? Emma asked, the question hanging heavy in the antiseptic air. Dr. Rivera's expression softened. The next 48 hours will be critical. We'll start her on 4 fluids, antibiotics, and pain management. The puppy needs specialized formula and constant monitoring. But they're fighters, especially the mother. Jessica Winters, the rescue center's manager, entered with a clipboard full of forms. Her gray-streaked hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, her expression a mixture of compassion and determination, the face of someone who had witnessed too many similar cases. We need to give them names, Jessica said. It helps with their records, and, well, it acknowledges their dignity. Emma looked at the German shepherd, seeing beyond the physical damage to the fierce spirit that had driven this mother to seek help when she could no longer provide for her baby. Carla, Emma said softly. It means strong in some cultures. And for the puppy, hope. Because that's what her mother was looking for when she found me. As the staff worked to stabilize Carla, Emma found herself unable to leave. She called her office, rescheduled her morning appointments, and settled into a chair in the corner of the treatment room. Throughout the day, she watched as Carla received blood tests, x-rays, and the first real care she had likely experienced in months. The puppy, Tiny Hope, required feeding every 2 hours. Emma volunteered to help, carefully administering the special formula using a syringe while Carla watched with anxious attention. When Emma placed Hope back beside her mother for comfort, Carla's entire body seemed to relax, her eyes closing briefly in what could only be described as relief. By evening, Emma had made a decision that surprised even herself. When Jessica approached with foster placement options, Emma heard herself say, "I'll take them. Both of them." Jessica's eyebrows rose. "Are you sure? Carla will need extensive rehabilitation, medication, possibly surgery. And the puppy requires round-the-clock care." Emma thought of her empty apartment, the silence that greeted her each evening, the patients who spoke of finding purpose through helping others. "I'm sure," she said, feeling more certain than she had about anything in years. Healing wounds. Emma's one-bedroom apartment transformed overnight. Her minimalist decor now competed with dog beds, puppy pads, and medicine schedules taped to the refrigerator. Her bathroom cabinet, once organized with clinical precision, overflowed with antibiotics, specialized shampoos, and puppy formula. Carla's physical recovery proved challenging but steady. Each day brought small victories, finishing a full bowl of specialized food, walking for 5 minutes without collapsing, allowing Emma to touch her injured leg without flinching. The psychological wounds, however, ran deeper. The first thunderstorm revealed Carla's invisible scars. The low rumble sent her scrambling under Emma's bed, body trembling violently, eyes wild with terror. Emma lay on the floor beside her for hours, speaking in hushed tones until the storm passed and Carla's shaking subsided. Other triggers emerged. Men with deep voices, sudden movements, the sound of glass breaking when Emma accidentally dropped a mug. Each reaction offered a glimpse into Carla's past, a history written in fear responses and defensive postures. Yet between these moments of trauma, Carla's true personality began to emerge. She proved intelligent, learning commands quickly despite never having received formal training. She was gentle with Hope, cleaning her meticulously and positioning herself between the puppy and any perceived threat, including the vacuum cleaner that Emma now used only when Carla was safely in another room. Hope blossomed under their joint care, her tiny body growing stronger daily. Her eyes opened, revealing warm brown irises that surveyed the world with puppy curiosity. Her wobbly attempts to walk often ended in comical tumbles that actually drew what Emma could only describe as a dog's version of laughter from Carla, a soft huffing sound accompanied by a relaxed, open expression. Dr. Rivera performed Carla's leg surgery 3 weeks after her rescue. The procedure required removing bone fragments and stabilizing the old fracture with pins. Emma took a week off work to oversee Carla's recovery, sleeping on the floor beside her, administering medication, and assisting with the prescribed physical therapy exercises. Throughout it all, Emma documented their journey, capturing photographs of Hope's first successful pounce on a toy, Carla's gradual weight gain, the moment when Carla finally wagged her tail without reservation. These images, evidence of healing, filled Emma with a sense of purpose that transcended her professional satisfaction. One evening, as Oregon rain pattered against the windows, Emma sat on her couch reviewing patient notes. Carla, now able to climb onto furniture with minimal discomfort, hoisted herself up and settled beside Emma. Then, in a gesture that brought unexpected tears to Emma's eyes, Carla rested her head on Emma's lap, a sign of trust from an animal who had every reason to distrust humans forever. Emma stroked Carla's head, feeling the dog's contented sigh. "You're safe now," she whispered, realizing that somewhere along the way, these animals she had intended to save had somehow saved something in her too. The nighttime hero. Winter settled over Portland, bringing short days and long nights. Emma's routine adapted around Carla and Hope, who now romped through the apartment with growing confidence. Carla's physical therapy had progressed remarkably. Her limp remained, but caused her far less pain. Hope had grown into her paws somewhat, though her oversized ears and boundless energy marked her clearly as a puppy still discovering her world. On a particularly cold December night, Emma received an urgent call from Jessica. A pipe had burst at Pacific Northwest Animal Rescue, and they needed all hands to help move animals to the dry sections of the building. Without hesitation, Emma bundled Carla and Hope into her car, knowing she couldn't leave them alone for what might be hours. The rescue center was chaos when they arrived, staff and volunteers rushing to transport frightened animals, water pooling in corners, the normal sense of the facility overwhelmed by dampness and stress. Emma jumped in immediately, helping to relocate cages while Carla and Hope waited in a makeshift containment area in the administrative office. Near midnight, with most animals safely relocated, Emma went to check on Carla and Hope. To her alarm, the makeshift barrier had been nudged aside. Both dogs were gone. Panic surged through her as she called their names, rushing through the warren of hallways that comprised the center's back areas. She found Carla standing rigidly at the door to the supply closet, hackles raised, a low growl emanating from deep in her throat. Hope sat obediently several feet behind her mother, unusual stillness replacing her typical bouncing energy. "Carla? What is it, girl?" Emma approached cautiously, unsettled by the intensity of the dog's focus. Carla barked sharply, once, twice, her nose pressing against the bottom of the door where wisps of smoke had begun to seep through. Emma's blood ran cold. Without thinking, she yanked open the door to find an electrical panel sparking dangerously, smoke billowing from a pile of rags and paper supplies that had been stored too close. "Fire!" Emma shouted, grabbing the emergency extinguisher mounted nearby. Jessica and two volunteers raced around the corner, eyes widening at the smoke now pouring from the supply room. While Emma discharged the extinguisher at the base of the flames, Jessica called 911, voice remarkably steady despite the danger. The fire department arrived within minutes, confirming what Emma already understood. Carla had detected the electrical fire in its earliest stages, before smoke detectors had activated. Had the fire burned much longer, it would have spread through the walls to the areas now housing dozens of displaced animals. Animals with no easy escape route. As firefighters secured the scene, Jessica knelt beside Carla, who had returned to Hope's side, body still vigilant but calmer. "You saved them all," Jessica whispered, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. "Every single one of them." Later that night, as Emma drove home with her two exhausted companions, the magnitude of what had happened washed over her. The German Shepherd who had been too weak to stand just months ago had repaid the kindness shown to her by saving not just her own puppy, but every animal in that shelter. The symmetry of it, the completion of a circle, felt almost mystical. A new beginning. By February, Emma faced a difficult truth. Her apartment, while adequate for rehabilitation, couldn't provide what Carla and Hope truly deserved: space to run, explore, and fulfill their potential as German Shepherds. The breed needed physical and mental stimulation that city living couldn't fully provide. She'd grown to love them with an intensity that surprised her. Carla's watchful presence during Emma's late-night work sessions, Hope's exuberant greeting each morning. These had become the foundations of her daily joy. Yet loving them meant wanting what was best for them, even if that best thing wasn't her. The perfect opportunity arose unexpectedly. Michael and Sarah Lancaster, a retired couple with a 5-acre property outside Portland, had read about Carla's heroism in saving the shelter from fire. The story had run in the local newspaper, accompanied by Emma's photographs documenting Carla's recovery. The Lancasters contacted Pacific Northwest Animal Rescue expressing interest in adopting both dogs. Their property featured rolling hills, a stream, and secure fencing. Michael, a former veterinary technician, understood Carla's ongoing medical needs. Sarah, who had trained service dogs before retirement, recognized Carla's exceptional intelligence and Hope's potential. Most importantly, they promised to keep mother and daughter together, the non-negotiable condition Emma had established. The home inspection went perfectly. Emma watched as Carla explored the Lancasters' property, her movements freer than Emma had ever seen in the confines of the apartment or small dog parks. Hope bounded through tall grass, circling back frequently to check on her mother's whereabouts. The dog's joy was palpable, unmistakable. The drive back to Portland that day was conducted in silence, Emma's thoughts too turbulent for music or distraction. She knew what she needed to do, though the knowledge felt like glass shards in her chest. The following weeks passed in a blur of preparation. Emma created a detailed medical history for Carla, compiled Hope's favorite toys and games, and wrote pages of notes about their preferences, fears, and achievements. She scheduled a final checkup with Dr. Rivera, who confirmed that Carla's leg had healed as well as could be expected and that both dogs were in excellent health overall. The morning of the adoption, Emma woke before sunrise. She sat on her living room floor, Carla's head in her lap, Hope curled against her side. Outside, Portland's rain fell in a gentle rhythm that matched Emma's tears. You saved me too, you know, Emma whispered to Carla, whose wise eyes seemed to understand everything unsaid. You showed me what courage really looks like. The Lancasters arrived promptly at 10, their SUV equipped with comfortable bedding for the dog's journey home. Emma walked them through her notes, handed over medical records, and transferred ownership of the special orthopedic bed that supported Carla's healing leg. When the moment of goodbye came, Emma knelt before Carla, cupping the shepherd's face gently between her hands. No words seemed adequate. Carla leaned forward, pressing her forehead against Emma's in a gesture that communicated more than language ever could. Hope, sensing the emotional gravity, nestled against Emma's knee, unusually subdued. They'll always know you gave them a second chance, Sarah said softly, her kind eyes understanding the depth of Emma's sacrifice. And you're welcome to visit any time. Emma nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She watched as Carla and Hope settled into the Lancasters' vehicle, their silhouettes visible through the window as the car pulled away. Something profound had ended, yet something equally meaningful had begun, not just for the dogs, but for Emma too. Guardian Angel. 6 months passed. Emma received regular updates from the Lancasters, photographs of Hope growing into her adult coat, videos of Carla swimming in the stream that crossed their property, stories of both dogs settling beautifully into country life. Carla's protective instincts had blossomed in her new environment. She patrolled the property perimeters daily, alerting to any unusual visitors with a distinctive bark that Michael had learned to distinguish from her ordinary communications. Emma had visited twice, each reunion filling her with bittersweet joy. The dogs remembered her, greeting her with enthusiasm, but it was clear they had bonded deeply with the Lancasters. They were home, truly home, in a way Emma's apartment could never have provided. On a stormy April night, Emma's phone rang just after midnight. Sarah Lancaster's voice came through, shaking with emotion but remarkably controlled. Emma, I thought you should know what happened, she began. We had a break-in tonight. Emma sat upright, instantly alert. Are you all okay? The dogs. We're all safe. Thanks to Carla, Sarah continued. Michael and I were asleep when she started barking, not her usual alert bark, but something more urgent. Michael got up to check and found a man in our living room. He had a gun, Emma. The gravity of the situation washed over Emma in a cold wave. What happened? Before Michael could react, Carla burst past him. She didn't attack wildly. She went straight for the arm holding the gun. The intruder fired once, but missed completely. Carla knocked him down and held him there, growling but not biting. Hope stayed with me, positioning herself between me and the doorway. It was like they had some silent communication system, each knowing their role. Emma pressed a hand to her mouth, picturing the scene with terrible clarity. The police said the man was wanted in connection with several armed robberies, Sarah continued. He admitted he targeted our place because it was isolated. He never expected to encounter a dog like Carla. Sarah's voice broke slightly. The officer said she likely saved our lives, Emma, not just by alerting us, but by handling the situation so intelligently. After the call ended, Emma sat motionless in her darkened apartment. The German shepherd who had once been too weak to stand, who had placed her puppy at a stranger's feet in a desperate bid for help, had transformed into a guardian capable of facing down an armed intruder. The symmetry was breathtaking. Carla, once the most vulnerable, had become the protector. The following weekend, Emma drove to the Lancasters' property. She found Carla lounging in the spring sunshine, her coat glossy and full, muscle definition visible where once there had been only protruding ribs. Hope, now nearly adult-sized but still puppyish in her mannerisms, raced circles around the yard, occasionally pausing to nudge her mother into play. Michael showed Emma the small medal the local police department had presented to Carla, an honorary K-9 badge attached to her collar. They said they'd never seen a civilian dog handle an armed threat with such precision, he explained proudly. No excessive force, just exactly what was needed to neutralize the danger. As Emma sat on the grass, Carla approached and settled beside her, head resting against Emma's leg with familiar affection. In that moment of connection, Emma understood something profound about healing. It wasn't just about mending bones or gaining weight or overcoming fear. True healing transformed pain into purpose. Full circle. 1 year to the day after finding Carla and Hope on Portland's foggy streets, Emma stood before a crowd at Pacific Northwest Animal Rescue's annual fundraising gala. The event, larger than previous years thanks to Carla's now famous story, had attracted donors, media, and animal lovers from across the region. On Emma's right stood the Lancasters, beaming with pride. On her left, Jessica and Dr. Rivera represented the rescue center that had made recovery possible. And at Emma's feet lay Carla and Hope, both wearing ceremonial blue scarves designating them as the evening's guests of honor. Sometimes, the animals we rescue end up rescuing us, Emma began, her voice carrying across the hushed room. When I found Carla that morning, she was starving, injured, desperate. All she had left to give was her trust, placing her puppy in my hands when she could no longer care for her alone. Emma gestured to the before and after photographs projected on the wall behind her. The skeletal, frightened shepherd on the day of rescue contrasted sharply with the healthy, confident dog now lying calmly amidst a crowd of strangers. Since then, Carla has saved an entire rescue center from fire and protected her family from an armed intruder. She transformed from victim to hero. But her greatest contribution can't be captured in headlines or dramatic stories. Her real gift has been showing us what resilience truly means, how love and trust, once thought lost, can be reclaimed and rebuilt. Emma knelt beside Carla, running her hand along the shepherd's back, feeling the smooth fur where scars had once dominated. Carla reminds us that desperation isn't the end of a story. Sometimes, it's just the beginning. She teaches us that our darkest moments don't define us. What comes after does. Hope, now grown into a beautiful young shepherd, pressed against Emma's side, her warm brown eyes surveying the crowd with the same intelligence her mother had displayed on that fateful morning a year ago. The fundraiser exceeded all expectations, raising enough money to expand the rescue center's medical facilities and establish a rehabilitation program specifically for abused animals. Emma was asked to consult on the program's development, bringing her professional expertise in trauma recovery to the project. Later that evening, as the event wound down, Emma found herself alone with Carla and Hope in the rescue center's garden. The same stars that had witnessed their first encounter now oversaw this moment of quiet reflection. Carla leaned against Emma's leg, her solid warmth a reminder of how far they had all traveled. "You changed everything," Emma whispered, scratching behind Carla's ears. "For so many of us." In response, Carla tilted her head, her amber eyes reflecting a wisdom that transcended species. In that silent exchange, Emma felt the completion of a circle. The desperate creature who had once placed her puppy at a stranger's feet had become the embodiment of what was possible when desperation met compassion, when second chances were offered and seized. As Emma prepared to leave, watching Carla and Hope walk confidently beside the Lancasters toward their waiting car, she understood that some bonds transcended physical distance or legal ownership. The connection forged in that moment of trust on a foggy Portland morning would remain unbroken, a reminder that sometimes, saving another life ultimately saves your own. The quiet heroes among us. In our fast-paced world, where headlines scream crisis and social media amplifies division, stories like Carla's remind us of what truly matters. Every day, across America, desperate souls, both human and animal, reach turning points where surrender becomes their only option. That moment of vulnerability, terrifying as it is, often creates the spark for transformation. Think about it. How many of us have found ourselves broken, placing our deepest hopes in the hands of strangers? The homeless veteran who finally accepts help, the addict who walks into their first recovery meeting, the abused spouse who dares to leave. These are Carla's human counterparts. They share her courage, her desperate faith that compassion still exists. What's remarkable isn't just their resilience, but how their journeys reshape everyone they touch. The rescuer becomes rescued, the helper healed. This cycle of reciprocal transformation happens quietly all around us, without fanfare or recognition. It happens in shelters and hospitals, in neighbors' living rooms and community centers. It happens wherever someone chooses to stop, to see another suffering, and to say, "I'll help." In these small acts of radical compassion, we glimpse who we truly are, not just as individuals, but as a species capable of extraordinary kindness. Thank you for watching this heartfelt story. We hope it touched your heart and left you with something meaningful to reflect on. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, leave a comment to share your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more inspiring stories like this. Your support means the world to us. See you in the next video.